Welcome to Beyond Earth. I am pleased to be present with you in this video. On January 3, 2019, an enigmatic and startling occurrence transpired beyond human perception. The Chang'e 4 mission from China successfully landed on the moon's far side. No footsteps were present on the Earth. A frigid, silent location, where sunlight never directly penetrates, in such obscurity, a human unearthed a revelation that astonished the scientific community. A startling scientific article was published in 2022. A study team headed by Dr. Qi Deng from the University of Chengchun, China, identified crystal balloons suspended in the atmosphere and resting on the lunar polar surface. Every balloon was impeccably spherical, emitting an unusual luminescence reminiscent of the archaic gaze of a human observer. Certain netizens jested that the child's disappearance was due to being propelled to the moon. However, beneath those phrases lies an enigma that remains unelucidated. What is the reason for the presence of 4-centimeter crystals on the moon's far side? A query that poses a significant challenge to contemporary science. Scientists believe that the impact of celestial bodies on the lunar surface generated heat, resulting in the melting of ice and the formation of tiny crystals. Typically, their size is merely 1 millimeter. The crystals identified by Chang'e 4 are 40 times bigger. What was the origin of their creation? What is their purpose for being present? Furthermore, over 50 years ago, during the Apollo 10 mission, the spaceship encountered the moon's far side, where the crew perceived an unusual sound resembling ethereal music emanating from the cosmos. No one was able to elucidate. NASA remained reticent. The enigmatic crystals emitted sounds that appeared to originate from nowhere, an uncharted dark aspect. Does the moon conceal something? Who or what had manifested there prior to our arrival? Today, we will investigate the enigmatic tremors occurring on the far side of the moon. Maintain your focus on the screen. Let us commence. This remarkable video was captured by the rising satellite on March 9, 2076. At that moment, the sky over several islands in western Indonesia darkened, unveiling a stunning sunset, a sight we typically do not witness. On August 1, 2008, a video captured the total eclipse phenomena in Xinjiang, China. It is said that witnessing it once incites fury, and despite the distance, one is compelled to experience it again. An eclipse occurs when the moon positions itself between the sun and the earth, aligning these three celestial bodies in a linear arrangement. During that period, the moon will obscure the sunlight reaching the earth, resulting in a shadow over the planet's surface. The elliptical orbits of the moon and the earth result in continual variations in the distances between the moon and the earth, as well as between the earth and the sun. An eclipse phenomena will occur when the distance between the earth and the moon is at its maximum. At this moment, the moon will be marginally smaller than the sun and will solely obscure the sun's diameter. A full eclipse phenomenon will occur when the distance between the earth and the moon is at its minimum. During this period, the moon will appear marginally larger than the sun and will completely obscure it. Furthermore, when the moon obscures a portion of the sun, we can observe part of the eclipse. A notable aspect of the eclipse, sometimes overlooked, is its occurrence due to a unique cosmic alignment involving the sun, the moon, and the earth. The sun is approximately 400 times farther from the earth than the distance from the earth to the moon. Remarkably, the diameter of the sun is almost 400 times greater than that of the moon. Consequently, from the earth's vantage point, these two celestial bodies, one large and one little, appear to be of equivalent size directly above the sun. Due to this ideal equilibrium, we can see the total eclipse occurrence when the moon entirely obscures the sun, producing a breathtaking and enigmatic spectacle. However, because the orbits of the earth and the moon are elliptical rather than circular, the distance between them fluctuates throughout time. Occasionally, the moon appears slightly larger, while at times the sun seems diminished. However, generally, we maintain a size that is rather consistent between day and night. This disparity renders many individuals unperturbed. The peculiar aspect that heightens curiosity is that the number 400 uniquely coincides, as it is absent from any other celestial bodies inside the solar system. This prompts the inquiry: is this only a coincidence or an impeccable plan of nature? Within the solar system, numerous planets possess satellites. Nevertheless, among all these planets, none exhibit a pair of peculiar coincidences akin to those of Earth and its moon. Envision that the Earth possesses a diameter of approximately 12,742 kilometers, while its little satellite, the Moon, has a diameter of roughly 3,474 kilometers, nearly one-third the size of the primary planet. Conversely, Mars possesses merely two little satellites, the greatest of which has a diameter of approximately 23 kilometers. Mars, the largest planet in the solar system, possesses 92 satellites, although its largest satellite, Ganymede, has a diameter of 5,250 kilometers, only slightly larger than the Moon, despite Mars being 11 times the size of Earth. The ratio between the Moon and the Earth is extraordinary and implausible. Some individuals argue that maintaining the Earth at the center of the Moon is like to a child supporting a watermelon larger than himself, and it is peculiar that the child remains upright while simultaneously growing as large as the watermelon. Few individuals are aware that, few years ago, a day on Earth lasted merely a few hours due to the planet's rapid spin. However, over time, the Moon's substantial gravitational influence progressively decelerated this rotation, akin to the effect of a colossal fan positioned on the planet's axis. Consequently, a day currently endures approximately 23 hours and 56 minutes. Not only was the Earth subjected to upheaval, but the Moon also initially rotated rapidly, yet, due to the gravitational influence exerted by the Earth, its rotation progressively decelerated, resulting in the peculiar phenomena known as tidal locking. The Moon consistently presents one hemisphere to the Earth, while the opposing hemisphere, known as the dark side, remains perpetually obscured from our view. What will occur if this phenomenon persists? Scientists anticipate that, in the far future, the Earth may become tidally locked to the Moon, resulting in a day on Earth lasting as long as a month, with one hemisphere perpetually in daylight and the other in darkness. The Moon serves as both a companion and a silent guardian of life. The lunar tidal force has induced fluctuations in water levels, resulting in inundated regions where the initial marine organisms emerged and progressively became antagonistic towards terrestrial environments. In the absence of the Moon, we might remain beings inhabiting the depths of the ocean, oblivious to the stars above. Moreover, the Moon maintains the stability of the Earth. The Earth rotates with an axial tilt of 23.5 degrees relative to the equator, and the gravitational influence of the Moon has maintained this angle for millions of years. In its absence, the Earth's axis of rotation will incline akin to a spinning wheel. Occasionally, the North Pole is oriented towards the Sun, while at other times, the equator assumes a polar position. The result is that the world climate undergoes quick alterations, seasons shift, the Ice Age arrives unexpectedly, and life as we currently understand it will cease to exist. This raises a question that contemporary science remains unable to resolve. What is the true nature of the Moon? Is it a coincidence or a deliberate arrangement? Is it a random satellite acquired by Earth? Or an ideal spacecraft positioned for the sustenance of life? The genesis of the Moon remains scientifically unresolved. However, alternative theories exist. One idea posits that the Moon is a female being that the Earth has appropriated from space. When the Moon approaches the Earth, it is significantly drawn by the gravitational pull of the planet and becomes a satellite in orbit around it. Nonetheless, this idea exhibits a distinct flaw, as the Moon possesses an excessively huge bulk, akin to a youngster attempting to pilfer a substantial watermelon. It is quite plausible that the watermelon was not purloined, but rather the child was expelled. The second explanation is the split theory, which posits that the Moon was separated from the Earth while the Earth was still in a molten state. This idea posits that the Moon resembles a child ejected from an uncontrollable spinning wheel. However, scientists have researched and determined that even during the first development stage, the Earth's rotational velocity is insufficient to generate such a force. The third theory, which is the most frequently endorsed, is the Great Collision theory. This idea posits that 4.5 billion years ago, a celestial body the size of a Mars-like planet, referred to as Theia, collided violently with Earth. The intense collision obliterated and liquefied the heavenly entity Theia and a portion of Earth's material, resulting in the formation of the surrounding particles. Subsequently, these particles were drawn together and collided, resulting in the formation of the Moon. In 2011, researchers examined the rocks obtained from the Apollo expedition and discovered that the oxygen concentration in the Earth's and Moon's rocks is remarkably similar. This led them to question the giant impact hypothesis, as it posits that the Moon should be composed of debris from both Earth and Theia, precluding any similarity to Earth's composition. Certain scientists have contributed to this hypothesis by positing that the collision resulted in the discharge of about 2 lunar masses, one of which was drawn back to Earth, while the other coalesced to form the Moon. Alongside the aforementioned ideas, there exists an alternative theory that several individuals endorse, despite scientific consensus being lacking. The huge Moon theory was proposed by Soviet scientists Michael Vazin and Alexander Tsechebaikov. This notion initially garnered little attention as the majority perceived it only as a scientific exercise. Subsequently, Nobel Prize laureate Harold Urey emerged as a proponent of the colossal Moon hypothesis. He cited the Moon's magnitude as the reason. Prior to human lunar exploration, scientists employed astronomical measurements and compelling geophysical equations to ascertain the Moon's density at 3.34 grams per cubic centimeter, in contrast to the Earth's density of 5.51 grams per cubic centimeter. Both are celestial bodies composed of rock. Although the Moon's size is less than 40% of the other, this engenders skepticism regarding the Moon's status as a celestial entity. Nonetheless, this notion gained increasing popularity among the public following an incident in the Apollo program. On November 20, 1969, the inaugural artificial earthquake on the Moon transpired, primarily instigated by the Apollo 12 spacecraft. The narrative commenced on November 14, 1969, when Apollo 11 achieved its inaugural lunar landing. 4 months later, Apollo 12 launched, and drawing on the expertise from Apollo 11, NASA possessed great confidence in this mission. Apollo 12 transports numerous experimental instruments on the lunar surface, including a seismometer to investigate geophysical phenomena and the dynamics of the lunar crust. The precise designation of this apparatus is the Lunar Earthquake Meter. Apollo 12 successfully landed on the Moon on November 19, 1969. The 2 astronauts positioned the seismic meter and additional experimental apparatus in proximity to the landing spot. Subsequent to the mission's conclusion on the Moon on November 20, the astronauts departed the lunar surface and returned to the command module. Subsequent to the spacecraft's landing and its docking with the command ship, it was propelled back towards the Moon. The 0.5-ton spacecraft impacted the lunar surface, generating the inaugural man-made earthquake on the Moon. Upon hearing this, you may question the necessity of discarding the spaceship. The Apollo spacecraft comprises 3 components: the service module, the command module, and the lunar module. The service vessel is the location for the storage of the engine and fuel. The command ship serves as the primary control center, while the spacecraft transports the 2 men to the Moon. Upon mission completion, the spacecraft will be discarded to decrease weight. Upon the ship's return to Earth, the service vessel will remain behind, with only the command ship descending into the ocean, return to the lunar seismic experiment. Following the landing of the Apollo 12 spacecraft on the Moon and its subsequent collision, a force equivalent to 1 ton of TNT generated an earthquake that lasted for 1 hour. The tremors ceased in the 8th minute and took almost 1 hour to fully abate. Earthquakes on Earth typically endure for just seconds, with even the most powerful tremors lasting under 2 minutes. Astronomers have characterized the Moon as a golden timepiece. Subsequently, during the Apollo 14, 15, 16, and 17 missions, researchers installed seismometers on the Moon, documenting 13,000 seismic events that persisted until 1977. During the Apollo 13 mission, subsequent to the spacecraft achieving orbit and transitioning from Earth to the Moon, astronomers managed the Apollo 13 Saturn V rocket and propelled it toward the Moon. On this occasion, they documented earthquakes with a duration of 3 hours. This demonstrates that the Moon functions as a perpetual clock. If the Moon is a solid mass, these tremors will rapidly cease. Similar to striking a ball, it produces a prolonged sound. Concurrently, a powerful earthquake will produce a brief sound. Moreover, an unusual occurrence exists on the Moon. The lunar surface features profound craters. The majority of the holes possess a depth of under 6 kilometers, but significant holes, such as the Gagarin impact hole, exhibit a diameter of up to 262 kilometers, yet their depth is merely 4.8 kilometers. The IKEN South Pole impact hole has a diameter of around 2,500 kilometers and a depth of merely 13 kilometers. Calculating the ratio of depth to diameter of impact craters on other rocky planets in the solar system indicates that the IKEN hole must possess a minimum depth of 425 kilometers. Data from lunar rovers indicate that the Moon's surface possesses a significant quantity of titanium alloys, suggesting the possibility that the Moon may be a colossal amalgamation of alloys. With its exterior composed of lunar rock, narratives of lunar cities have begun to emerge. This view, undoubtedly, lacks endorsement from the conventional scientific establishment. Scientists elucidate that the diminished gravitational forces on the Moon are attributable to the absence of water on its surface, which precludes any mitigating influence on gravity. Furthermore, remote sensing technology has significantly progressed due to artificial intelligence, enabling humans to correctly delineate the structural map of the Moon. Similar to Earth, the Moon possesses a layered structure within. The structure can be categorized into 3 concentric layers: the lunar surface, the anti-moon layer, and the lunar shell. The Moon's density is significantly lower than that of the Earth. We cannot attribute blame to the Moon, mostly because to the Earth's excessively high density. The Earth's density is quite irregular. The density increases as one approaches the Earth's center. The Earth's density reaches 12.8 grams per cubic centimeter, which is 4 times greater than the average density of the Moon. The validity of the empty Moon theory is contingent upon perspective. However, from the perspective of scientists, it is really a myth. The Moon is Earth's adjacent celestial body. Since antiquity, individuals have consistently envisioned the Moon in the sky. For instance, when the Russians traveled to the Moon, they desired to rest at the base of the tree. The Moon serves as an inexhaustible source of inspiration for astronomers. On July 20, 1969, the Apollo 11 mission successfully sent humans to the Moon, eliciting widespread global excitement. However, whenever we reference landing on the Moon, there will invariably be a cohort of silent critics voicing their opinions. The Apollo lunar landing program is unequivocally a deception. Nevertheless, they are quite simple to replicate. On July 26, 1971, the Apollo 15 mission, upon landing on the Moon, introduced a specialized apparatus known as the Lunar Roving Vehicle. On July 30, 2 men and the Lunar Roving Vehicle accomplished a successful landing on the Moon. The astronauts, utilizing the Lunar Roving Vehicle, remained on the Moon for 67 hours and conducted the inaugural automobile race in human history on the lunar surface. The overall distance is around 27 kilometers. In 2011, NASA deployed a satellite to attain an exceptionally low altitude of 25 kilometers above the lunar surface. It documented the image of the lunar roving vehicle and the tire tracks it left behind. All appears unchanged from 40 years prior. In addition to the lunar roving vehicle, the Apollo 15 crew also deployed a laser beam on the Moon at this elevation. Anybody on Earth possessing an appropriate device can emit a laser at this altitude and receive the beam. This laser beam measures the precise distance between the Moon and the Earth. This equipment has enabled scientists to ascertain that the Moon is receding from the Earth at a rate of 3.8 centimeters annually. The Apollo program conducted 6 lunar landings, returning around 300 kilograms of lunar samples. Since 2015, scientists across have utilized the samples returned by Apollo to produce almost 2,500 scientific articles. Annually, numerous research institutions solicit samples from NASA. Given the multitude of research groups globally, it is difficult to conceive that they would collectively fabricate a falsehood on the Moon landing. In 1972, the Apollo program reached its zenith. Following the successful lunar landing of Apollo 17, it was halted by President Nixon of the United States. The primary explanation for this may be that the United States decisively triumphed over the Soviet Union in the space race. Following the Soviet Union's cessation of their lunar landing ambitions, the United States lost its rival, while the Soviet Union forfeited its impetus to pursue lunar exploration. Furthermore, between 1961 and 1972, the Apollo program incurred expenses exceeding $25 billion, which is comparable to $150 billion in today's currency. The United States lacks sufficient funds to proceed, however, the cessation of the Apollo program continues to invigorate numerous beliefs. Certain individuals assert that American astronauts have observed unidentified flying objects on the moon. Some individuals assert that the United States has established an accord with extraterrestrials and is reluctant to return to the moon. On April 1, 2007, a user on Tyrant AFB uploaded numerous videos on YouTube regarding lunar landing missions, as well as the revelation of a moon possessing 3 eyes and aliens, which resulted in a significant internet outage. The original videos have been removed, although some eager users remain in anticipation. These recordings are believed to document the Apollo 20 mission, encompassing footage from the ship, the astronauts executing their tasks on the moon, and the proximity of the lunar city, among other aspects. The most astonishing revelation in this movie is that astronauts have identified a colossal extraterrestrial object approximately 3 kilometers in length on the moon. A woman with 3 eyes is present inside the spacecraft. Upon the video's publication online, UFO researcher Luca reached out to AFB and did an interview with them. AFB declared that his actual name is William Reckids. He is one of the 3 astronauts executing the clandestine Apollo 20 mission. William stated that following the successful landing of Apollo 17 on the moon, the United States did not promptly terminate the Apollo program, but rather conducted the flights of Apollo 18, 19, and 20 clandestinely. The objective was to locate the colossal spacecraft inadvertently seized by Apollo 15 during its lunar landing. Interestingly, this image may be located on the official website of the U.S. Space Research Station under the number AS-15P9630. Williams stated that the Apollo 20 mission occurred in August 1976. The collaboration involved the United States and the Soviet Union, with 3 astronauts participating: himself, U.S. astronaut Leonardus Sidney, and renowned Soviet astronaut Alexei Leonov. William and Leonov approached the colossal spaceship and boarded it securely. Following the voyage, they discovered a 1.65-meter tall astronaut with 3 eyes, equipped with numerous equipment linked to humans. The objective appears to be controlling the spacecraft and returning the astronaut to Earth for research purposes. William detached the apparatus he had linked to the astronaut. The footage was so realistic that speculation regarding the moon being a covert base for astronauts intensified. Despite the numerous problems in the AFP documentary, including the portrayal of the United States and the Soviet Union as professional adversaries, they successfully executed a mission to land on the moon. William did not don gloves while handling the body of an extraterrestrial woman. Ultimately, they discovered that this was only a prank orchestrated by AFP in collaboration with the French photographer Gilles Rispet. Nonetheless, certain individuals maintain that the Apollo 20 mission is authentic. In October 2017, the U.S. government unveiled the Artemis Plan, aiming to return astronauts to the moon by 2024 and establish a permanent lunar outpost by 2028. The ultimate objective is to facilitate a landing on Mars and conduct missions for further space exploration. Nevertheless, the Artemis Plan has seen multiple delays because to insufficient funding, technical challenges, and circumstances such as the pandemic. After a hiatus of 50 years, the United States has proclaimed its intention to return to the moon in 2024, primarily due to heightened competitive pressures, with China as the principal adversary. Since the commencement of the 21st century, China's aircraft sector has seen fluctuations. On October 15, 2003, Shenzhou 5 was launched into orbit, signifying a significant advancement in China's space research efforts. On October 24, 2007, the Cheney 1 achieved its designated orbit, realizing China's aspiration to conquer the moon. On January 3, 2014, the Cheney 4 successfully landed on Mars, marking the first instance in human history of a spacecraft landing on the moon from behind. Despite the enormous publicity surrounding these accomplishments, few individuals are aware that Chinese astronauts have also experienced unusual events in space. On the morning of October 15, 2003, astronaut Wang Liwei embarked on the Shenzhou 5, completing 14 orbits of the Earth in 21 hours. Upon completing his tasks and readying for repose, Wang Liwei heard peculiar noises resembling a resounding thud on the vessel, akin to the sound of a hammer striking a metal container. Despite his training to discern and locate the origin of sounds, Wang Liwei was unable to identify the source of the noise. Upon his return to Earth, he reported his findings but was unable to identify the source. 5 years later, on September 27, 2008, additional Chinese astronauts, including Zhai Jigang, Lin Boming, and Jin Haipei, during the Shenzhou 7 mission, also detected similar sounds. Authorities needed to reassess this issue and clarify that the temperature differential between the exterior and interior of the spacecraft resulted in a phenomenon like the sound of pounding on a metal box, producing noises akin to a loud explosion. Nonetheless, not all individuals concurred with this rationale, as the sound they perceived was distinctly dissimilar to that of hammering on a metal box. Moreover, the peculiar sounds in space were not exclusively associated with Chinese astronauts. In 1969, during Apollo 10's lunar orbit, 3 American astronauts encountered unusual sounds as the spacecraft crossed behind the Moon and lost communication with Earth. NASA recently published a film capturing these noises, and photographer Eugene Sherman remarked that it resembled music from space. The program's name, Artemis, is derived from the Greek goddess Artemis. She is the twin sister of the deity Apollo, who facilitated humanity's journey to the Moon during the Apollo mission. Consequently, drawing from the expertise gained during the Apollo program, the United States encountered no challenges in executing the lunar mission. However, Artemis encountered numerous challenges. The test flight of the unmanned spacecraft Artemis 1 was initially slated for April 2022 but experienced multiple delays owing to adverse weather conditions and fuel issues. Artemis 1 was launched on November 16, 2022. The objective to return to the Moon has been deferred until 2025. A common inquiry is why, after over 50 years since the United States successfully landed humans on the Moon, an unmanned test mission around the Moon was necessary. There are claims circulating online that NASA misplaced the technical records from the mission 50 years ago. Consequently, the United States lunar landing technology was not only created in-house but undoubtedly benefited from assistance from an extraterrestrial culture. The reason for the challenges faced by the United States in returning to the Moon, despite aid from extraterrestrials, remains ambiguous. The narrative is typically commendable. However, the reality may disillusion individuals. Indeed, anyone with basic proficiency in searching for English documents can readily locate numerous classified materials regarding NASA's lunar landing technology online. NASA has never claimed to have lost the documents pertaining to the technology of lunar landing. The sole item that may be lost is the tape recorder of the Apollo 11 lunar landing. The tape has been erased and repurposed. However, the footage remains intact as it has been relocated to the Johnson Space Center and preserved for an extended period. Nonetheless, it is undeniable that while the documentation pertaining to lunar landing technology remain intact, numerous engineers and scientists associated with the project are no longer employed there. At the conclusion of the Apollo program, the production and installation of the spacecraft were restructured and are no longer operational or have ceased. The samples have been extracted, and engineers and scientists have transitioned to different areas of employment. Nevertheless, despite the deletion of the cassette, reutilizing the obsolete technology remains challenging. Moreover, numerous antiquated technology are obsolete. The Saturn V rocket was the vehicle that launched the Apollo spacecraft into space. NASA has addressed the speculation around the loss of the Saturn V recording. It is asserted that the tape remains intact. However, the reconstruction of a Saturn V lacks logical coherence. Numerous components of the Saturn V have been rendered obsolete. Locating gear from the 1960s is more challenging than designing a new rocket. Furthermore, the Saturn V was engineered utilizing enormous computers that are over 50 years old. The device possesses a mere 16 KB of memory, operates at a primary machine speed of only 2 MHz, and weighs several kilograms. It is utterly unparalleled by contemporary computers. The reproduction of antiquated drawings is a notably challenging and inefficient task. Furthermore, the U.S. lunar landing can be seen as a significant contribution to finance. In 1966, during the critical phase of the Apollo program, NASA received 4.41% of the federal budget. Currently, NASA's annual funding constitutes about 0.48% of the government budget. NASA is now experiencing significant financial challenges. The primary reason the United States' return to the moon has become increasingly challenging. The new space race has commenced, and in the future, individuals will uncover some mysteries in space and on the moon. Let us await the outcome. What is your opinion regarding the moon? Please feel free to share your comments in the comments area.